This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Well, here we go, everybody. Time for the Week in Review, the final Week in Review for 2025. Can you believe it? 2025 has come and it's gone. And I hope that you survive the Christmas season here as we now move into New Year's, or as many of us like to refer to it as kind of the void. We don't know what day it is. We don't know what time it is. We always have to be reminded what month it is. It's just that bizarre time of the year where not until mid-January do we kind of get our calibration back. But here we are as we roll into 2026 very soon. I hope everybody had, again, great Christmas and, time to pay those bills, time to pay for those things that we thought we could pay for before Christmas and now have to actually pay for in those monthly charges. But hopefully you didn't. Maybe you were smarter than me. So we're going to get into the Week in Review. We'll also have kind of a combo mailbag show. For those of you that sent in emails, we're going to answer those as well. Now, if you want to join us on Patreon and go ad-free, I really highly recommend you do that. Patreon.com/WWE Podcast, because nothing's better than listening to a show that doesn't have ads. I mean, I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't have to deal with the ads when I click on YouTube videos. Totally worth the $30 a month. Peacock, I'm ad-free, really ad-free everywhere. I cannot handle ads. I understand I'm paying a premium for that. I don't give a damn. And I guess that's segue into my ad-free content that I have. But, those of you that pay for ads, or rather pay for content yet still have ads, where you'll do, YouTube or Hulu, and you still have ads, yet you're paying for the service. I don't know how you do it. Is it really worth that extra $6 a month? I don't know. Alrighty, well, let's dive into, as always, this week in review, because there's a lot to get to. And one kind of comment here on Stranger Things. I know this has nothing to do with what you clicked on here for the show. Very briefly, because some of you may care, some of you may not. The Stranger Things series finale is this Wednesday. And so that means 7 of 8 of the episodes have already been released. I will say the first 4 were awesome, and then it kind of falls off a cliff. I won't give you any spoilers. I have some thoughts here, maybe on my other show that I do called The War on Truth, because it doesn't have anything to do with really wrestling, and neither does this, but it's a little deeper into other things that some of you are, of course, you may or may not agree with me on, but it's definitely off the beaten path of wrestling. So anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying Stranger Things, that it kind of takes over the world for a very short time here. And we get our series finale on New Year's Eve night. Alrighty, let's do it, as I said, because there's some stuff to get to. Despite this being a holiday week, there were some things that were just very, very much a Vince McMahon-esque feel to this week. Now, in a lot of the Vince McMahon era holiday shows, many of them were just a joke. I mean, there were just constant phrases to gifts and, trying to have a play on words of my gift is going to be defeating you. I mean, it's like the same promo over and over from everybody. Horrible. And you'd think that with Triple H now in charge, that things were going to change wholesale, and they haven't, guys. They haven't. Like, fundamentally, they haven't changed at all, other than they continue to pull back the curtain, which I've hammered on many times. And they continue to, and then pretend that there's a demand for more of that. And I really doubt those metrics. I'd love to know what data sources they're using, or what surveys they're sending out, what R&D they're using to come to the conclusion that, in fact, the fans want more of the curtain pulled back. Well, again, I don't know how much more of the curtain you could pull back. I don't. But this week, to circle back on point, we got a very Vince McMahon feeling SmackDown, with the traditional eye-rolling garbage segments that have to do with Christmas. And I have nothing against Christmas. I'm talking about like the silliness of pro wrestling and Christmas when it gets combined is horrible. And we got that this week, sadly, with Joe Hendry involved, and Otis, and Tozawa. I forget who the other victims were, and a bunch of no-names that were dressed up in Santa outfits, a bunch of women, I'm guessing were local wrestling talent. And it was horrible. It was embarrassing. We'll get to that in just a few minutes here, but let's start at the top of the show, because that's what we're going to do here. Let's see here. So the show, though, did open with Cody Rhodes shown walking backstage. He was approached by Nick Aldis. Cody asked if Drew had arrived, and Aldis said he hadn't, and he reminded Cody that no physicality would be allowed once McIntyre signed the contract. Miz showed up after Cody walked away and said, "Where is he?" And Aldis played dumb because he knew the Miz didn't want to say Joe Hendry's name, and Aldis eventually mentioned Hendry's name, and he was shown in the ring with the women, and Otis dressed in Santa attire. And it gets worse because they're also mixing in Easter here with someone in an Easter bunny costume. That person was revealed, and that may be the only saving grace of who was playing that person. Could have been the only one playing that person. But Akira Tozawa, again, was the elf on a shelf. Hendry sang his own version of Jingle Bells, the lyrics about Miz having tiny balls, and the Miz comes out and interrupts and says, no. And Hendry said the Miz was upset because they started singing without him. And Hendry saying Miz has tiny balls. He'd rather be in Hollywood, but they won't return his calls. Miz entered the ring and demanded they clear it so they could have a match. Then that match was made on a Miracle on 34th Street fight. We don't need that. I will say this, and look, I think Joe Hendry does have a bright future in WWE, but the more they tease Joe Hendry coming in and then he leaves, which hasn't helped over the last couple of years on the main roster anyway, where he comes in the Rumble or where he appears at WrestleMania, and then you think they're finally going to give him consistent time on the main roster, and then they don't. That doesn't help, because it's like, it's fun, but then he disappears. And I know someone's going to say, well, someone needs to say his name. Okay, got it. But you got to eventually drop the shoe. You cannot continue to do that to the crowd, and because they're either going to say crap or get off the pot. And I don't believe, or don't know, if this was truly Joe Hendry's official debut on the main roster where he's going to be there every week. I still doubt it, but this was an abomination of a segment for Joe Hendry. And Joe Hendry did what he could with the material he was given. I'm not attacking him personally. I'm talking about the creative for Joe Hendry. For Otis and Tozawa, this is right out of the Vince McMahon playbook. If you think Vince McMahon would have been watching this and smiling and just with ultimate pride for Paul Levesque, you probably would be right. This is right up Vince McMahon's alley for this time of year, for these kinds of shows. I'm embarrassed to be a fan when I see this crap. I feel actually embarrassed. Has anyone ever got to the point watching wrestling, or maybe any other show, doesn't have to be wrestling, where you feel secondhand embarrassment, but you actually feel your face getting red as if people can see you watching this, or you're imagining other people watching you watch this, and it feels so embarrassing, just the very thought of it. I actually got to that point watching this garbage with Joe Hendry and with Tozawa and Otis. Remember the time when Otis, for a while he was being used by Vince McMahon as this, bowl full of jelly dude. He'd wear shirts that were clearly accentuating his stomach, and he was eating. Remember during the pandemic era, during the Money in the Bank contract match at WWE headquarters, he was eating, and Paul Heyman was there. Remember that? Just that may be the single worst, honestly, the single worst matches of all time for the WWE Money in the Bank ladder match for the men and women during the pandemic. Another topic for another day. But Vince would use him in those very, very much those roles, and Triple H just kind of fell right into it here. I think it's horrible. It's not funny. It makes a mockery of what's actually supposed to be going on in the ring. I know it's entertainment, okay? But the pro wrestling is the entertainment, not the men and women trying to be actors playing a role that they don't feel comfortable doing. And yeah, they may be getting a bunch of money to do it, but on the downside, they're destroying themselves on camera. And it's making a lot of the older audience just sigh in embarrassment. If I was with somebody outside of my kid at an event watching that segment, I would have felt just complete embarrassment. And even at home, again, as I said, I felt that. Not everything needs to be a serious wrestling program. Not everything needs to be a blood feud. I'm not trying to paint the whole thing with one brush of what I prefer for wrestling, but this isn't wrestling. This isn't wrestling. And I have never been a fan of this, and I'm not changing how I've viewed this garbage when Vince did it. So I'm very consistent here with my personal preference of wrestling. You may call this entertainment, but again, this is wrestling. The wrestling is the entertainment, not the attempts at comedy. The attempts at comedy are very difficult to do. Comedy is exceedingly difficult to do successfully on scale or at scale. And WWE, wrestling in general, is generally very bad at it because very few people are very good at comedy. You can come up with the most brilliant lines in a boardroom, but to have the people who can actually execute it on camera be successful is very difficult and very few and far between. Now, both the execution and the execution was done as well as it could have been done, but when the writing is garbage, you are going to have a failure of a segment. And this to me was an F-. It made me want to stop watching wrestling. This stuff is just total crap. So that's how I feel about that. But let's continue. I think I've made my point after this just horrendousness. We did get the match, Hendry versus The Miz. And the match ended with Joe Hendry predictably beating The Miz on a miracle, on 34th Street fight. And he wins after hitting him with the standing ovation chokeslam. It put him through the Slim Jim table. Of course, we're going to get more people through tables than ever before because of Slim Jim. But, I guess that's just the world we live in now. All right. So, by the way, who cares? Who cares about the Miz's balls? I mean, how is that even funny? It's not even funny. It's like middle school humor. It's terrible. Okay, I promise. Let's go on. So we had then Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss were shown wearing bad Christmas sweaters while passing naughty and nice signs back and forth. Again, terribleness here. Kathy Kelly then caught up with Drew McIntyre and asked if he would talk about the stipulation. He obviously said that he would, but not right away. And Byron Saxton stood backstage, and he had Jade Cargill, who said that Michin was afraid, and Jade said she didn't need a weapon because she is the weapon, and Jade told Michin to bring her kendo stick because she'd need it. And then B-Fab was watching Jade's promo backstage on a monitor. And, it's clear those two are going to cross paths. And Michin showed up and spoke to B-Fab, and they were saying how Jade needs to be humbled. All right. Yeah, hey, Jade's talking. Despite the fact that it is never more than 20 seconds, ever, the bar is so low that Jade talking is even considered a success. I think she did fine. But again, her sample size is so damn small. We don't know who and what she is other than, hey, and that's exactly what Michin said. Like, she has muscles. Like, okay, we got it. Your physique. Got it. You want us to look at your body all the time because that's really all you've got. Got it. But until she consistently is able to cut good, more lengthy promos, and I don't need a 10-minute promo every week, but until at least just once she can show that she can cut a good 5-minute promo, the fans are going to continue to just respond to her very lukewarmly, whether it's positive or negative, because if she's a heel or a babyface, but the fans aren't connected, they're not going to respond accordingly, at least at the intensity that they want. And they can continue to throw her out there with the skimpiest outfits, showing off all of her muscles, and it's not going to make a bit of difference because connection is well beyond the outward appearance, well beyond. So we then get Charlotte Flair take on Lash Legend, and Cole said it was a first-time matchup, and Legend got the better of Flair early, and then Flair fired back with a kick. Flair ran toward Legend, who powerbombed her, and this match, that's how it started out. But Charlotte Flair did beat Lash Legend in the end. The finish was Flair setting up for figure 8. Jax climbed on the apron to distract Flair, who was booted by Legend into a corner, and then Jax dropped to the floor. Bliss climbed on Jax's back, and a distracted Legend then approached Flair, who used the sunset flip to get the victory. Did Nia Jax lose weight? I mean, I think she looks better than ever. I mean, she was wearing a very tight kind of bodysuit, and I noticed, like, oh, wow, good for her. I mean, maybe it was just her outfit, or I haven't really studied her body in a while. But I looked at her and go, oh, wow, good for her. It looks like she has lost, at least from her heaviest anyway, a significant amount of weight, which is going to help her. I understand that her weight, Nia Jax's weight, they've used to her advantage because she's different than most of the women. As her song says, she uses the Annihilator, which relies on her being bigger. But ultimately, that is all not going to be worth it in the end because her career is going to be cut short. Because physics, more strain on your joints, higher risk of injury for yourself and your opponent. It's just facts. So hopefully, I mean, I don't need her looking like Charlotte Flair, but this seems like a much more sustainable, healthier weight and safer weight if she's going to be doing what she's doing. All right. We then have Nick Aldis in his office. Someone off screen said that he makes them. He said make themselves at home, and the camera panned back, and Trick Williams was sitting in a chair. Trick laughed at then told Nick Aldis that Raw brought bank, and Trick asked if Aldis was going to match the offer. WWE champion Cody Rhodes entered the room and asked to speak with Aldis, and Cody asked if Drew had paid his fine and apologized to referee Dan Engler, and Aldis said he had not yet, and Cody got then worked up, and Aldis told him to control his emotions and reminded him he would strip him of the title if he put a finger on McIntyre. So why the hell would Cody care if Drew McIntyre paid his fine or apologized to the referee? What does that have to do with him and his championship? Or is it just, I'm the moral compass, damn it, do the right thing? That's essentially what this is saying. It's, I mean, just another one of these gross babyface Cody moments. Nobody else is talking about this. It just is so part and parcel with his character and this babyface, just gushy, gross, totally unrelatable version of Cody Rhodes that I can't wait to see turn heel. Which, if you're going to turn Cody heel, for the love of God, do it at WrestleMania. You're gonna want a guy like this who's beloved by the fans to do it at WrestleMania. I'm not predicting that this year. In fact, I don't even know when they would ever turn him because he sells a lot of merch. Kids love him. He's still, I don't think he's at his peak popularity, but fans still, I mean, they're not asking to turn him heel. I'm the only lone voice in the crowd here, but okay. Trick Williams returned and told Cody that he's the hottest free agent in the game, and Trick told Cody if Aldis makes the right decision, but Cody better hold on to his belt real tight. And okay, so a little bit of tension teased there, but nothing imminent. But I will say, well, what do you mean by free agent? There's no exclusivity to the brands anymore. That died a long time ago. We all know that having a draft is useless in WWE. They can't adhere to their own draft rules for more than a week, sometimes less. And I'm not being I don't think I'm being overly dramatic or overstating that. They actually can't. There's always a reason someone's there, or there's no explanation why someone's there that shouldn't be there. Sometimes there's security chasing them out of the building. Sometimes they're just walking around backstage with no explanation and nobody telling them to get out of the arena. Then they try to, remember the wild card rule and all that garbage, because what they want is create creative flexibility. And if they decide to do a draft again, what they're going to do is box themselves into a corner where they're then going to have to embarrassingly violate their own draft rules in short order, because they will and they can't help themselves. Or they're going to be restricted on the matches that they can create and the storylines they can create with the talent roster cut in half, because they can only work with the guys and gals on that brand. So they don't want to draft. If I were WWE and I, at this point, had quietly dissolved the exclusivity of the brands of Raw and SmackDown, I would just let things be, because it allows you to just bring anyone on any show and no one says anything, which they do right away anyway, which is stupid. But at least now it's the old, boil the frog by turning up the heat slowly. Like, eventually you don't even notice or care. Before you know it, it's like, I'm dead, right? A bit of an extreme example, but you get my metaphor, I think, or analogy rather. I think you got it. It's silly. So WWE should not do a draft. Anybody that's asking for a draft, have you seen the last 5? Remember the war rooms where the Fox executives and USA executives that we've never seen are in the boardrooms, and we're supposed to pretend that there's some kind of experts on who they should draft, and then they draft who was it first? That was just ridiculous. It was like Bianca Belair. Are you kidding me? I'd have to go back and look. It was done for nothing more than PR. It resulted in no difference whatsoever on the actual roster. The rosters themselves are now just blended together anyway. The exclusivity's gone. It's all for show. They make it a mockery of actual drafts. There's no seemingly rhyme or reason for why certain people are drafted in the 5th round versus the 2nd round, where 2nd round picks are, if you were actually going for the best people, 2nd round picks or even 1st round picks that were chosen, should be chosen at the 5th round when you go back and look. But so anyway, I hope they don't do the draft. I really do. I know a lot of people want it and have been asking, when are they going to do it? You don't want it. You don't want it. So we have a promo video air with Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, all the Samoans. I'm not going to read everybody. And Solo spoke about Uncle Howdy, preaching about how family, when he doesn't care, preaching about family when he doesn't care to even have one. And Solo said he created his own family and said the fireflies faded away and his lantern was running low. And Solo saying he's got the whole world in his hands. Okay. Nothing really crazy here. Just a reminder of these two teams are in a feud. That's all this was for. All right. Dragunov takes on Carmelo Hayes for the United States Championship. Okay. Really good match here. Easily the match of the night in my mind. Carmelo Hayes wins. Now, what did I tell you guys? I think it was last week before. I said next time Dragunov defends his championship, he's losing. And here we are. He didn't even make it as long as I thought he would. I thought he'd make it maybe to Rumble. Nope. Carmelo Hayes wins the United States Championship. Dragunov did a nice job, bringing wrestling, pure wrestling in your face, professional wrestling back to the United States Championship. Carmelo Hayes now gets to put a little bit of inject some more entertainment into the U.S. Championship. It's his first major championship, singles championship on the main roster. So we'll see what Carmelo Hayes can do with it. I think Carmelo is still struggling with a bit of an identity crisis, though. I don't think the fans really know what to feel for him because he has waffled back and forth. And he did have this program with The Miz that started and then abruptly stopped. So I don't know what this is for, what this is doing. So I'm fine. I mean, we know he can kick ass in the ring, and I'll see where this can go. I'm not down on this. I feel neutral about it. I feel neutral because Dragunov is a really good wrestler. Carmelo Hayes does have a little bit more charisma, but we don't know what to feel for him. We don't know much about him. So hopefully that changes. All right. Oh, R-Truth was the Easter Bunny. Okay. It's about the only halfway okay part of the whole thing. I mean, that fits R-Truth's character. That's the only thing that aligned in that opening segment. So we had then a tag team match here for the women. Chelsea Green and Alba Fire take on Julia and Kiana James, with Julia and Kiana James winning. And they beat Chelsea Green and Alba Fire after a Northern Lights bomb and got the victory over Green. And that was that. So, yep. Backstage, Kit Wilson spoke with Nick Aldis while referee Dan Engler stood by, and Wilson spoke about getting rid of toxic masculinity on SmackDown being his New Year's resolution. And he asked for an opportunity. You know what, Kip? And there will be an opportunity for something new in next week's SmackDown. And that was it. So, yeah, I mean, we have Wilson. I don't know if this is supposed to be an actual, like, I mean, it is very representative of the culture at large, particularly like feminism that does believe that that any masculinity is essentially toxic, like, you know, but another topic for, again, a different show. Follow me at The War on Truth if you want to hear me talk about this kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if this is really like a belief of the company, or just him trying to be obnoxious. I think obnoxiousness is where they're going. But there you go. I mean, Kit Wilson doing something is good. I enjoyed him in a tag team, but all right. Cody Rhodes then showed up and asked Engler if Drew had apologized to him, and then asked Aldis if McIntyre had paid his fine yet, and McIntyre's entrance was shown on television. Okay, so again, Cody Rhodes. Why does he care about the fine and the apology? Mr. Moral Compass, I guess, just wants to make sure everyone's doing the right thing all the time. Gosh golly. What a freaking moron. All right. McIntyre's entrance was then again shown, and he came in the ring. This is where things actually get really good on SmackDown. My God. I mean, this turned it into from an embarrassment of Easter bunnies and Santa Clauses and Joe Hendry singing Jingle Balls and all that nonsense, just total crap. And I'm being as PG as I can, to getting serious here and giving us pro wrestling and a pro wrestling promo, a professional pro wrestling promo. So we have Nick Aldis in the ring with Drew McIntyre and Dan Engler, and Aldis told McIntyre he could apologize to Engler to get on with his title match. McIntyre said he's a man of his word, and he handed Aldis a check to pay off his fine, and McIntyre told Engler that he was sorry for Claymore kicking him in the face and asked him to accept his humblest apology. And McIntyre said he also apologized because it's obviously Engler's dream to be a wrestler, but he wasn't good enough, so he had to be a referee. It gets better. He apologized to Engler's wife, Melissa, for wishing she had a husband like him. And McIntyre apologized to Engler's kids for having a corporate stooge of a father, and encouraged Engler to hit him to get his revenge. That's when, of course, the White Knight, the moral compass directing SmackDown, comes out, and McIntyre smiled as Cody headed to the ring. And he said he wished Cody's wife, Brandy, could see what a real man looks like. And Aldis tried to get Cody to stay calm. And McIntyre said they weren't going to have their match in the United States because Cody had screwed him 3 times there. And he said that they were taking it to Berlin, Germany, and that they're going to meet in a 3 stages of hell match. And this is the money line, man. I mean, you know where I'm going with this. McIntyre said there's one more thing. He said that when he sends Cody straight to hell, he wants Cody to say hello to his dad for him. Oh my. I mean, this is just brilliant. It's awesome. We had Aldis step in, put his arms around Cody to keep him calm, but Cody elbowed Aldis into a corner of the ring, and McIntyre dropped Cody with a Claymore. And then McIntyre grabbed the championship belt off the apron, looked at it, and held it up while standing over Cody. And Cole said McIntyre knew what he was doing, and Cody couldn't lay a finger on him for 2 weeks. And Cole said it'll be Cody versus McIntyre in a 3 stages of hell match on SmackDown. It's not a PLE, from Berlin, Germany in 2 weeks. So this was good. Really, really good. First of all, it sadly does tell us that McIntyre is probably not winning the championship again. Why? Because it's on SmackDown. The odds of WWE having Cody Rhodes this close to WrestleMania season on a SmackDown drop the belt is slim at best, meaning like 10% chance in my mind. I understand it's in Berlin. Wild, hot crowd is guaranteed. But it's a SmackDown. It's before the Royal Rumble. They are certainly not going to drop the belt, I don't believe, to Drew in that match. Drew continues to not be able to time things out. He's like Kevin Owens when Kevin Owens would have a championship match. It just wasn't the right time of year. You knew bigger things were planned for that individual. By the way, if you have looked at spoilers, and I'm going to give you a chance here to skip ahead a little bit, but there is a list going around that looks legitimate of the Royal Rumble entrants and the winners for this year's Royal Rumble. And it looks legit, and it's a hell of a list that if it's not WWE's, it looks incredibly realistic and believable, and some fun surprise opponents. So I'll let you dig through that, but in terms of who could return and that kind of thing. But I'm going to give you the men's and women's Royal Rumble winners according to this list that does seem very plausible. Ready? You've been warned. So apparently the winner for the men is Roman Reigns, who's going to win the Royal Rumble, and you'll get your, as we've kind of alluded to here, and I'm sure you've heard elsewhere, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Part 3. Then on the female side, you have Bianca Belair winning the Women's Royal Rumble. Now, could she go on to face Jade Cargill? Very likely. That's a match that when Jade came in, you just from a visual standpoint went and pointed and went, yeah, like that looks like it would be a good match. Now, in reality, is it going to be a good match? I mean, based on Jade Cargill's skills at the moment, I have my doubts, but we'll see. And again, this is all preliminary. It's all just floating around. Some surprise entrance, and the way that it was. Just go Google it if you really care about the details and what the order of people coming in. It all just seemed to make a lot of sense. So if it is Roman Reigns, they're not going to put Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre. They've done that at WrestleMania before, but hey, this is Cody Rhodes Part 3 with Roman Reigns. If it is, that to me is like, okay, fine, you know you're going to get a really good match, but what's the story here, man? What's the story? You have a babyface Roman Reigns, a babyface Cody. I guess you could turn one of them. What's the story, though? I don't know. A lot of time to think about that, but we'll do that in time, I'm sure. All right, let's start rolling here. We're gonna get to let's get to the emails right now, actually, and let's go. All right, let's go to DJ. He says, since this is the final mailbag and show of 2025, my email might be a little scatterbrained. Not to steal your thunder, but I thought about it and recently checked on past matches and storylines of the year, and it was kind of a lot. But some honorable mentions in AEW this year, mainly 4 big moments that came to mind. Hangman Adam Page ending Jon Moxley's AEW title reign at All In the Texas Death Match, ending the almost 1-year title reign for Moxley, and in a sense, ending Moxley and his Death Raiders' reign of terror in AEW, which originally started in October of 2024 at Wrestle Dream when Moxley defeated Bryan Danielson for the AEW title. Number 2, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage reuniting at AEW's All In, Texas, after when Christian Cage's Patriarchy family faction turned on him after losing in a 3-way tag team match for the World Tag Team titles. Number 3, Mercedes Moné capturing a record-breaking 14 women's titles in a variety of wrestling promotions, including AEW. Number 4, last and certainly not least, most certainly MJF's surprise return to AEW on an episode of Dynamite as he inserted himself back into the AEW world title picture and most likely will win it. Yeah, see, obviously, as we know, he did win. MJF, that is, won the AEW world title. So, some honorable mentions in TNA, some big moments here that come to mind. If you don't watch TNA, here's some big moments to recap 2025. Joe Hendry winning the TNA World title at TNA Genesis and appearing with the world title at the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania 41. The announced partnership with WWE in which TNA stars would appear on WWE programming like NXT, Raw, SmackDown, PLEs. And the Hardys versus the Dudleys in one final tables match at TNA's Bound for Glory, which would become the Dudleys' retirement match. And then finally, TNA and AMC's joint partnership to air TNA Live Thursday night episodes on AMC and AMC Plus starting in January is a huge deal in a sense that TNA continues to gain more traction due to their partnership with WWE. Now, to WWE, briefly mention that in 2025, my opinion, it would be remembered for heel turns and betrayals. John Cena turning heel in Elimination Chamber, Naomi turning heel after admitting she attacked Jade, Paul Heyman turning on both Roman and Punk at WrestleMania, which eventually led to Seth turning heel and forming the Vision. Becky Lynch heel turn that took place Monday Night Raw when she attacked Lyra, which led to Becky for a couple of months having a decent reign as Women's IC champion. In the second half of the year, we had The Miz turning on Carmelo Hayes, which pretty much was a given, and Jade Cargill officially turning heel after attacking Tiffany Stratton, which led to Jade winning the title at Saturday night's main event. And that's some really nice recap, DJ. I appreciate that. And a lot of heel turns. My God. You almost wonder, like, who's left as the babyface besides Cody and Roman Reigns, you know? Of course, you have Randy Orton floating out there and all that. But, okay, some bizarre moments and booking decisions of 2025. Yeah, here comes some very bizarre ones. Number 1, how can it not be? John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania 41 Night 2 debacle. That's a very nice way of putting it. Including Travis Scott, John Cena turning back babyface, R-Truth becoming Ron Killings, and then back to R-Truth. That is very bizarre. Jey Uso pinning Gunther at WrestleMania. Well, no, he didn't. He made him tap out, if I'm not mistaken. Seth's fake injury leading to his Money in the Bank cash in. And there were some positives in WWE, but just a handful. Number 1, Braun Breaker becoming a huge star after Seth Rollins ousted from the Vision. Well, I wouldn't say he was ousted. I mean, he was forced to take a break because of his injury. He wasn't, he was kicked out, but when he comes back, you do wonder if he's going to still try to be a part of that group. I know that, again, the Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed attack would say that, no, you're not part of the Vision anymore, but you're probably right. But we have to remember, maybe Seth is going to try to come back. I have my doubts. He'll probably just come back and attack Braun Breaker. So Seth's going to be a babyface upon his return. Naomi turning heel, winning the Women's Money in the Bank and Women's World Heavyweight Championship, or just Women's World Title. We don't want to say heavyweight, because that's not women aren't segregated by weight because they're just apparently weightless human beings. We all know why they don't mention weight, because it's not appropriate, right? But when you think about it, like, shouldn't the women also have a heavyweight championship? Again, are women are they again just translucent beings that don't have any weight to them? All right, I'm being a jerk. So the Usos reuniting, competing in the tag team division. Brock Lesnar returning to SummerSlam, and Gunther becoming the most hated in WWE after forcing John Cena to give up. Hopefully, next year WWE would learn from the many past mistakes of this year and not repeat them again, DJ signing off. Have a great weekend. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Cheers to a better 2026. DJ, very comprehensive. Appreciate you covering all of the promotions, the major ones anyway. And we'll be looking forward to that Joe Hendry report momentarily. So let's continue. And we're going to talk to, let's see here. Somebody messaged me, but that doesn't make sense. So somebody messaged me about John Cena. Why did he retire? I've seen many shorts on YouTube as I normally work during the televised nights, but I don't know. He's still young in comparison to the wrestlers who still make appearances and the like, but he is still strong. Why? Well, I mean, John Cena was pretty clear that when he felt that he and can see that he's a step or two behind, he's done. And he is. I mean, he's not embarrassing in the ring, but he's not what he was. And so he feels it's time to step away. He said he made a promise at the beginning of his career when he felt that he was a step slower. He's done, and he's done. That's really the reason. All right. This is next from Shane. He says, I want to get your opinion on my Rumble pick. I think the apparent rumors leaked, whether it's planned or not, will result in an outside choice winning. Hopefully this happens as you've stated it. My homeboy himself, Randy Orton, wins the Rumble. Oh, wow. Now, it would tie Orton in Rumble wins with the most at 3 with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, what makes this intriguing is imagine Braun Breaker wins the world title on Raw from Punk, either in early January or a rematch at the Rumble itself. Now, who injured Randy Orton and put him on the shelf? The Vision. Not that you can face Breaker, though. It's a diversion from the eventual heel turn up from Orton. He can ask help from Cody. This gives some filler as a team. They can face the Vision leading up to Elimination Chamber, perhaps. The winner of the Chamber challenges Breaker. Let's say another match on the card that night could be the Vision in a tag team match against Legacy 2 versus 2 at the Chamber. There is a miscommunication between Orton and Rhodes. They take the L after Orton loses it, attacks Cody, and WWE have shown they will have blood when necessary, and I believe a bloody beatdown would be followed by a punt. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you're going to do the turn, you got to have it vicious. You don't want people to like Randy after that, and Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, to me, is way, and I can't put enough Y's on that, more intriguing to me than Roman Reigns, because we've seen that twice in the last 3 years. Randy Orton, there is a boatload of story that you could pull from their history. I think it would be fantastic. Okay, it's 1 billion times better than any leaked rumors. It puts Orton back in the main event instantly, and it's expected and a safe choice from management. Orton's a legend. I don't see many fans having a problem with him winning. You can argue it's time to put the younger stars up, but the difference is Orton isn't a part-timer. He's still got a lot of gas in the tank, and you can build a feud with Breaker and the world title on the other side. Also, it's almost, 20 years in the making? The story's right there. They don't even have to do anything, and it's instantly exciting. If that match happens, I would be okay with Cody retaining as long as Orton wins, maybe at Backlash or the next PPV. I think a win on the big stage would be okay, considering he lost to Cena last year, but think it'd be a long feud. I think they will run with Cody as a babyface here, but if he were to turn heel in this scenario, that was also good either way. Absolutely, and thank you. You have a great Christmas, or hope you did as well. I mean, you don't have to sell me. I'm there. Orton and Cody Rhodes. There's, as you said, 20 years. There's a lot to do here. I mean, this should be built really, like you said, from the Rumble to Mania, and they could do it. I don't need Orton wrestling every week. I want Orton to save himself. He does have, I think, a lot of gas in the tank, meaning like 4 or 5 years left, I think. Not full-time, but on a part-time-ish schedule, you could do it. Could you make Orton champion? You could. And here's the thing. Orton's not going to get any younger. If you're going to pull the trigger on an Orton turn in a major main event at WrestleMania, you got to do it now. Because every preceding year will have, I think, a higher risk of injury, a higher risk of a worse performance because just age. And also, you're going to want to put talent that's younger in that position. Orton is a legend, no doubt about it. But if you're not going to push younger talent, then there's no point in utilizing Orton. Because the future is not Orton. As we know, the future is Cody Rhodes and his opponents, like a future Braun Breaker. We have a lot to go through here with Cody Rhodes, but you're right. I think there's something to be said for that. Thank you. All right. I think that is through at the emails. I did have one. And let's see. I think I buried this by accident in my damn, I don't know what happened to it. Let me look. I have an email that I've been trying to talk about. Oh, the upside of Unreal. This is actually sent back on December 9th, but it's still applicable here. So this is from Lance back on December 9th. I don't know how you got lost in the sauce here, Lance, so I apologize. Lance says, thanks for your podcast. My family got into WWE a few months ago after I watched Unreal on Netflix. I know you mourn the loss of kayfabe, but we have never seen pro wrestling. We would never have seen any pro wrestling if not for Unreal. My daughter loves Io Sky and Sami Zayn. I'm partial to Javon Evans and Becky Lynch and Paul Heyman. Our only complaint is that there's too much content to keep up with. I'm sorry you don't like the new WWE. Maybe you need to lower your expectations and learn to appreciate what the new era has to offer. Even though it's not the same as what you grew up with, pro wrestling is still pretty great. Keep up the good work, Lance. Yep. Well, hey, okay. First of all, I'm glad that whatever got you into pro wrestling, I think is good. It's something you and your family, as you said, can talk about, bond over. It's wonderful. It really is. But my preference of pro wrestling and what makes wrestling great isn't based solely on the fact that this is the wrestling I grew up with during my time, right? I'm 40. And to some of you, that's like, whoa, you're old. And to some of you, it's like, that's not old. I'm 50. I'm 60. I mean, my male demo is about 18 to 45. So most of you, I'm probably a little bit older than, based on the listenership that I can see. But my point still stands. Like, I'm not of the belief that everything that I saw and experienced in my childhood should be duplicated now. Just because it was the way it was in my childhood doesn't mean that it's inherently a better way to do it. I also understand that there's a sickness of nostalgia with millennials. It's an illness that millennials just can't let go of their childhood. That's why you hear about Disney adults and you hear about millennials craving for their childhood. And to some degree, I think we all did. And I think there's many reasons for millennials really clinging for the years and days of old. I think in part of it is due to the fact that we are the first generation to be able to digitize our entire childhood, because we were able to experience the things for the first time, captured on video for the first time of any generation. So we're able to actually see and relive those moments for the first time in human history. So you're going to naturally drudge up those feelings of like, oh my God, that's right. I forgot about this. I forgot about that. Whereas past generations didn't have that access. They may have had photographs. Obviously you did. Video to some small degree, but it wasn't at scale like it is today. So I think that's part of it. I don't want to go into too much of a psychoanalysis about it right now, but more to your point, Lance, it's not just because that's how I grew up. I'm totally open to doing things differently if it's a better way. Completely. I mean, I'm not sitting here closed-minded going, no, it has to be my way, the old way. But progress for the sake of progress is not always better. I've brought this up. You can't tell me that things that are successful doing it one way are not going to be that way forever. So you need to change just because it's a good idea to change. What's the reason for the change? You gotta give me a reason. I mean, WWE was at its highest, just objectively, ratings-wise, merch-wise. They were the most popular culture, just mainstream culture, household name. Like, in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, it was at its absolute peak. But 5 times the ratings they are now, maybe higher. So more people were watching, which means they were doing something right. They were doing something better. And I also don't want wrestling to turn into feeling like it's just a regular sitcom. I want wrestling to feel like wrestling. See, the company has fallen away, and under Vince McMahon it did as well. But I think it's exponentially falling away from what its identity is, which is pro wrestling. It's a wrestling company. People say, "Oh, it's entertainment." Okay, again, entertainment is such a broad category. But my whole deal is, how do you entertain the people? Entertainment, that's the side effect. But what are you doing to entertain? If it's wrestling, then be a wrestling company and the entertainment comes. It's a package deal. You put out good wrestling and good storylines and make it believable, and the fans are entertained. When you try to force entertainment that's not wrestling down the throats of the consumer, often it will not work because you are not true to your identity or you're running from it. And WWE has tried over the last several, really not just under the TKO. Again, TKO has done some horrible stuff in my mind to what WWE and what pro wrestling is. But even under the Vince McMahon era, I mean, they have ran from the term pro wrestling. They can run from it all they want, but they're spinning their wheels. You can rebrand it, relabel it, rename it. It's wrestling. I know it's a shameful term now. Even though you can say it on TV, it's still frowned down upon. It's looked down upon. People stick their nose in the air at what pro wrestling is and what it means, which is why they've tried to rebrand it, even though it's the same thing it always has been. It's still wrestling in the ring that people want to see. Because the moment you stop wrestling, then you're not a wrestling show anymore. You're just a sitcom. And I think they've leaned too much on sitcom stuff and stuff that's not funny, or 5-minute or 2-minute matches when the rest of it is about backstage garbage and the scripted promos and pulling the curtain back during shows, as you know, has been to me one of the worst things that the company's ever done. I don't care. Oh, kayfabe's already dead. Well, okay, but why are we now making sure it stays dead? Why can't you try to recreate some of the magic that is ultimately going to, I think, result in fans becoming more attracted to your product, more engaged, more consistent in the watching and investing their time and money into? When fans become invested emotionally, they spend the money and the time to be a part of that. So I'm going way off track, Lance. I just want to make sure I did. If there was a question in there, I mean, I don't know if I need to learn to lower my expectations and learn to appreciate what the new era has to offer, because I see what it has to offer. I don't need to. I mean, I shouldn't have to lower my expectations because the company wants me to. See, the company wants me to expect a certain level of wrestling and entertainment. And my expectations are higher because I know and I've seen it be better. And a lot of people sit here and all you do is complain for, okay, well, here's the thing. It's because I know wrestling can be better. I've seen it. It's not this pie in the sky belief that, well, maybe someday, at the end of the rainbow. No, I've seen it. I lived it. So I know what connects fans and when it's most successful. I know I know basic human psychology because I'm a human being, much like you. I understand what makes wrestling great. And I'm not saying other people don't have good ideas, but I'm talking fundamentals. I'm not talking about how to make, the intricate pieces of a match or spots in a match or even who could face who in a match. I'm just talking at ground level fundamentals of what makes wrestling great. And some of those are totally missing. Coherent storylines. A lot of that's missing. Great promos from those involved in the matches. A lot of that skill is lost. And I'm not saying it's easy to acquire, but you can talk people into seats without even wrestling a match. The idea that you need an emotional connection with the fans is lost. It's all about just fireworks. Give me the best match. That doesn't last long. And today, I think a lot of it's lost, and TKO doesn't give a damn. You should see the WrestleMania 42 ticket prices, by the way. Nosebleeds are $1,000 a piece. Yes, $1,000 a piece. You want lower level? That's going to cost you 12 to 14 grand a piece. You want ringside, like second row, third row? You're looking at $32,000 per ticket for the WrestleMania 42 seats. Who in the F is going to be able to afford that? Who is going to be able to afford this crap? And it's not going to happen, but I would love to see ticket prices plunge into oblivion, or attendance for WrestleMania plunge. And now they won't do it because they're going to have a full stadium no matter what the ticket prices are, because if they have to, and this would be the last resort, but if they have to, they would just have seat fillers for WrestleMania. How embarrassing would that be? So there'll never be an empty stadium for WrestleMania because they'll just give the seats away if necessary to show the public, no, we have a full stadium, see? But I don't think that'll happen. There'll be somebody who will be able to afford these. I don't know who. Maybe, I mean, you're going to have people who are in the top 1% of income earners, or people who are just willing to go into thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt to attend this event, that have shown also, by the way, it is not worth the price of admission. I mean, when you look at these prices, even if you were to get a WrestleMania 17 lineup and looking at the ticket prices, and you were somehow able to attend WrestleMania 17, people today would not pay that, which is widely regarded as one of the best WrestleManias of all time. Even knowing going in, it's going to be Austin versus Rock, one of the best WrestleMania main events of all time, one of the best rivalries of all time. People still wouldn't pay that. Now you're going to go in with the hope and wish and a dream that when they don't know the card and you get a stinker of a main event like last year, that people are going to hopefully forget all that and take the chance that they're going to just empty their bank accounts to attend your show. I hope the ticket prices are horrible. And not because I want to see WWE fail, but I want the fans to send the company a message. No, we aren't paying this. Screw you. Screw you. And this is the number one reason they left New Orleans. Remember, it was supposed to be in New Orleans this year, but they left and went to Vegas because guess what? They realized, oh, wow, we can make way more in Vegas. So they gave the middle finger to New Orleans and they went to Vegas because they knew that these types of ticket prices would not fly in New Orleans. But in Vegas, where all the money is, it's the cash register of the world. With how many billions and billions of dollars are transacted there on a weekly basis, monthly basis, you know damn well they're trying to cash in on that. So, all right. Thanks, Lance. Here comes DJ Kuzmo to close out the show.
This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag Show. Record you live on a Wednesday morning, and you know what time it is. It's time to
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry is his name, as I take it to my 76th episode of the Drudge Report, and like always, coming to you live from an undisclosed location. And like always, before I take you to Joe Hendry, let me continue to mention what has been going about in TNA, especially with the NXT and TNA collaboration with the NXT Invasion in TNA. I will talk about what took place last week on the episode of TNA Pro Wrestling, the infamous December 18th episode, where we had in the main event a steel cage match of Team TNA versus Team NXT in a 10-man tag team match. But before I get to that, I want to quickly mention some big news in the world of Mike Santana, as Mike Santana and the Hardys of Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy were featured on the upcoming PWI Pro Wrestling Illustrated February 2026 magazine issue. Most specifically Mike Santana, as he was featured on the cover. This issue is available right now digitally, but on Tuesday, January 13, 2026, you can get the physical magazine copy at your local newsstand. The story focuses on Mike Santana's success in 2025, winning the TNA World Championship at this year's TNA's Bound for Glory. It also talks about his goals for 2026, with the main one being of recapturing the TNA World title, hopefully at TNA Genesis next year in January. And of course, I love this kind of rags to riches, from the gutter to the glory, the highs and lows of Mike Santana. From his humble beginnings in the Bronx, New York, because that's where he's from, to where he is now today as a big star in TNA. If you are a fan of professional wrestling and independent professional wrestling, you should get a copy to get to know a lot more about Mike Santana before he becomes a big star in WWE. This guy has the makings of a top star, potentially when he gets to NXT, and of course when he gets to the main roster. But like I said, this is available right now digitally. It is Mike Santana on the Pro Wrestling Illustrated February 2026 magazine issue. And get your copy because this is going to be a great 2026 for Mike Santana. Take you to this past episode of TNA Pro Wrestling, the infamous December 18th episode, where I will fast forward to the main event of Team TNA versus Team NXT in a steel cage match, a 10-man tag team match. And this featured for Team TNA, the captain, Mike Santana, followed by Steve Maclin, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, and the Director of Authority, Mr. Santino Marella, as they went up against the NXT Outsiders of Stax, the newly crowned TNA International Champion, Lexis King, Brooks Jensen, and the tag team called High Rise, which features both Tyson and Tyreek. This match was not a War Games match, but each person for both teams came at specific intervals during the match. And to win the match, you could only win it by either pinfall or submission. This main event match lasted 20 minutes and 5 seconds. But during the early part of this tag team match, as Matt Hardy was about to enter the cage, he gets blindsided attacked from Tyreek of the NXT Outsiders and lays out Matt Hardy in preventing him from going into the cage. Jeff Hardy would later make his appearance to enter the cage, but before he does so, he briefly checked in on Matt, his brother, to see if he was okay, but Matt said to him, "I'll be okay, just go in the cage and help TNA get the victory." But then something bizarre happens during this main event match to Matt Hardy. We get the appearance of a tag team, a kind of spooky psychedelic tag team called The Righteous. They have been newly signed to TNA of both Vincent and Dutch as they pick up Matt Hardy and carry him to the back. But the question is, where are The Righteous taking Matt Hardy next? With this interesting development regarding Matt Hardy, it looked like the advantage for this steel cage match was in favor of the NXT Outsiders with a 5-4 advantage over Team TNA. But as we fast forward to the tail end of this main event match, after when we saw good old-fashioned Santino Marella goes for a Cobra Strike to Brooks Jensen, then Mike Santana follows that up with the spin the block discus lariat to Brooks Jensen, and 1, 2, 3. Team TNA gets the victory over the NXT Outsiders, even though they were one man short on their team. But hold on a minute, the show was not over yet. After when Team TNA of Mike Santana, Steve Maclin, Jeff Hardy, and Santino Marella celebrated their victory, we saw Santana eyeing his future son-in-law Stax in the corner of the cage. As Santana, Jeff, and Maclin exit the cage, Ariana Grace, Santino Marella's daughter, shows up in the cage and hugs her father. But from the looks of it, something seemed kinda odd, because the only people that were left in the cage were Stax, Ariana Grace, and Santino Marella. And then, oh my goodness, the shocking development happens. Ariana Grace low blows her father, Santino Marella, as Stax proceeds to beat down on Santino. And then Santana and Maclin are trying to get in the cage, but Ariana locked the cage door and she has the key. Ariana slaps her father as Steve Maclin is climbing the cage to get inside, but Stax quickly leaves the cage. Ariana tells Maclin, "You don't know what the F is going on." Then she unlocks the cage door and confronts Mike Santana, stating that how you better not be a deadbeat just like my dad, Santino Marella. I guess she took it out of the playbook of Mr. Dirty Dominic Mysterio, because Dirty Dom called his father, Rey Mysterio, a deadbeat. And here it is, folks, the shocking development. Ariana Grace has betrayed her father, Santino Marella, and I guess you could say she is the actual person, the mastermind behind the NXT Outsiders, and not Robert Stone, as I alluded to a couple of weeks ago, where I mentioned that there's a possibility that Robert Stone is not the mastermind, and now we see from this past infamous episode of TNA Pro Wrestling that it looked like Ariana Grace is the mastermind of the NXT Outsiders having their takeover in TNA. And now to Joe Hendry. We get a mention of Joe Hendry's name apparently from this past episode of Friday Night SmackDown, pre-recorded from Hershey, Pennsylvania, in which we get a backstage segment of The Miz and the general manager of SmackDown, Mr. Nick Aldis. The Miz says that he, who should not be named, ruined The Miz's moment at this past Saturday night's main event, and that The Miz wants a match against that nameless guy. Nick Aldis asks The Miz, "You mean Carmelo Hayes?" The Miz says, "Not him." Aldis says, "Oh, you mean Joe Hendry?" But The Miz stops him and tells him not to say his name. Miz tells Aldis he wants a match with that Joe guy next week. Aldis says, "Good idea," and that he will talk to the NXT general manager, Mrs. Ava Raine, about that. And then we get the appearance of R-Truth as he does the Joe Hendry spin and tells The Miz, "I believe in Joe Pesci," and then The Miz just walks away. And it is official, folks. On the next episode of Friday Night SmackDown, which has already been pre-recorded, it will be Joe Hendry in his SmackDown debut. That's right, folks. Joe Hendry in his SmackDown debut as he will go up against The Miz in a Miracle on 34th Street fight. And I have to say, I am pumped up for this to see Joe Hendry on SmackDown. And always remember this, folks, if you continue to say his name, he might just randomly appear. And he appeared last night on NXT on a pre-recorded episode of NXT. But before I talk about Joe Hendry, let me talk about Joe Hendry's mixed tag team partner, newfound best friend, and the newest NXT Women's North American Champion in Thea Hale. Thea Hale was shown in the ring as she talked about her surprise victory for the NXT Women's North American Championship that had a controversial finish. Thea continues to say, "People talk about what being a champion is like, but nothing prepares you for what it's like to actually have it on your shoulder." Thea goes on to say, "I have been champion for a week. It's the greatest thing in my life." Thea concludes, "So many people doubted me, but I believed in the moment. And when you believe hard enough, you make history and you become the youngest NXT Women's North American Champion in history." But then all of a sudden, here comes the former NXT Women's North American Champion in Blake Monroe as she appears and says last week was a fluke, a mistake, an inconvenience, that she has to now deal with this for the rest of her life, and she wants her title back. But then Thea claps back at Blake and says, "Womp womp, sorry, no deal, you lost. The referee counted 1, 2, 3. Blake says the ref had no idea what he was doing, and she wants her contractual rematch. Then we get a brawl between Thea Hale and Blake Monroe until the referee separated them. And it is now official at NXT's New Year's Eve on Tuesday, January 6, 2026. It will be Thea Hale versus Blake Monroe in a rematch for the NXT Women's North American Championship. Now to Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry made a brief backstage segment alongside Dark State and the general manager of NXT, Mrs. Ava Raine. Osiris Griffin of Dark State says to Ava, "If it wasn't for Joe," but Saquon Sugars of Dark State cuts him off and says, "Don't say his name." Dion Lennox picks up from where Osiris Griffin left off and says, "I'll be the new #1 contender to face Obafemi for the NXT title at New Year's Eve." Then Ava asks Dion, "What do you want me to do about it?" Dion Lennox says, "Give me Joe Hendry." Dion said his name, Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry randomly appeared from behind a bookshelf. Ava asks Joe, "Have you been in my office the whole time?" Joe says to Dark State, lads, why the long faces? Come on, 'tis the season to be merry." But Dion Lennox did not want to hear any of that jive from Hendry ever since the Fatal 4-Way loss last week, where Dion could have been the #1 contender. Joe tells Dion, "Look, if Christmas isn't your thing, how about a little bit of positivity going into the new year in 2026? Dion was about to knock out Joe in the face, but Ava Raine intervened and said, "Not in my office." So Dion and the rest of the members of Dark State leave. But Coulter James of Dark State tells Joe Keep your head on a swivel. Hendry will be watching you. Then he walks away. But what does Coulter James mean by that? Anyway, Joe then proposes an idea to the general manager of NXT in the form of a Joe Hendry concert next week on NXT. Ava agrees to have this concert happen next week, and it's official. Next week on the final NXT of 2025, there will be a Joe Hendry concert. Plus, let me remind you one more time, folks, this Friday, December 26th, on the pre-recorded episode of SmackDown, Joe Hendry makes his SmackDown debut against The Miz in a Miracle on 34th Street fight. And always remember this, folks, if you remember to say their name in Thea Hale and Joe Hendry, they might just randomly appear. Always remember to believe, say his name, always remember the words that Joe Hendry says anytime, any place, at any show, and most importantly, always remember to do this.
Wave your hands from side to side and say, oh, I believe in Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry is so prestigious.
Once again, this is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay safe, my friends. Believe and peace.
Thank you, DJ. Well said. Appreciate the wrap up as always this week, and a very busy week, very busy holiday week. Hope is all is well with you, your family. Had a great Christmas, and heading into the new year. Everybody, again, be safe this week. You know, DJ, I'm not sure what your plans are, but you included as well, my friend. I hope that whatever your plans are, it's fun or maybe quiet. Yeah, as I get older, I'm like, even if I was single, I would probably not go out. I used to be big into the New Year's Eve and the parties and, you know, getting hammered and all. Like that is long since past when it comes to New Year's Eve. But anyway, DJ, thank you, my friend, for the recap. Blake Monroe, hearing about the NXT North American Women's Championship, excellent. Thank you so much. As we roll into 2026, the final Joe Hendry report that comes to you today, December 28th. So thank you, DJ. Thank you to Lance and all the other emailers as we're closing out the final mailbag / weekend review of 2025. And that means we'll be back on Tuesday with your Monday Night Raw review. I don't expect anything revolutionary coming out of it because the next big stop, of course, is that Raw in Brooklyn to start off the new year. Big championship matches, big implications, big crowd, big market. So next week, probably very incremental progression in storylines. But everybody, if you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcasts is a great place to go to get yourself everything we do ad-free. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.